The phone shattered the silence at 10:07 a.m. Its buzz slicing through the dim stillness of Lauren Carter's Minneapolis apartment like a blade. The screen glowed with an unknown number, flickering in the half-light. Lauren, bleary-eyed, her chamomile tea cooling beside a laptop cluttered with legal drafts, hesitated. Spam, she thought. Or maybe a frantic colleague chasing last-minute forms. 3 missed calls already. Her thumb hovered over the decline button. But when it rang a 4th time, insistent and unyielding, she answered. A man's voice, calm but weighted, came through. Lauren Carter? He asked, as if testing fragile ground. This is Officer Daniel Brooks. Rochester Police Department. Her breath caught, not from the words but the way he said them. Like he was bracing for her to break. Yes, that's me, she said, her voice barely steady. We found a woman matching the description of your mother. Margaret Carter, Brooks said. She was outside a Speedway gas station about an hour ago. No coat, no shoes, just house slippers. Bruised, disoriented, caught in the blizzard. She refused a hospital trip but kept saying someone named Lauren would know what to do. Lauren's world tilted. Margaret Carter, her mother. The woman who'd once called her a walking letdown, in a kitchen screaming match, was now shivering. Abandoned in a Minnesota snowstorm. I'm 200 miles away. Lauren whispered, then louder, her voice stealing. Tell her I'm coming. The apartment felt like it was closing in. The muted true crime show on the TV flickered like a ghost. Her tea sat forgotten, and the legal folders sprawled across the kitchen table were left in chaos. No time to pack, no time to change out of her worn sneakers. Lauren grabbed her coat, car keys, and a first aid kit from under the sink, then bolted out the door, the cold biting her face as she ran to her car. The snow was already thick, falling in heavy, relentless sheets, as if the sky itself was trying to bury the truth. The roads were a slick nightmare. Lauren's tires skidded twice in the first 10 blocks. But she didn't stop. Her windshield wipers battled the snow, smearing more than they cleared. The world beyond her headlights a blur of white. Inside the car, silence was deafening, no radio, no music, just the roar of her thoughts. 7 years had passed since she'd left Rochester. 7 years since she'd stood in the same room as her mother. Margaret hadn't called, hadn't written, hadn't asked about her since Lauren took a job in the city. Her mother was the type to remember birthdays only when it gave her something to boast about, and forget them when anger took over. But that call from Officer Brooks cracked something open. A fault line in Lauren's carefully built walls. The last time she saw Margaret, they'd been in the middle of a fight in their old Rochester kitchen. Lauren had just won a full-ride scholarship to a law program out of state. Margaret's response? You're abandoning us. Don't come back if you think you're too good for this family. Lauren hadn't. She'd built a life 200 miles away. One where her mother's sharp words couldn't reach. But now, imagining Margaret, not as the woman who'd once smashed a glass from her hand at 17, but as a frightened figure lost in a storm, Lauren felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a pull she couldn't ignore. The 200-mile drive was a gauntlet of snow and memory. Towns she hadn't thought of in years blurred past, their outlines swallowed by flurries. Gas stations were shuttered, headlights rare. Her knuckles ached from gripping the wheel, her breath fogging the windshield from the inside. She passed Rochester's welcome sign at 4:10 a.m. The world outside her car a frozen void. Her heart pounded as she turned into the Speedway lot, tires crunching over packed snow. And then she saw her. Margaret was curled against the side of the building, wedged between a dumpster and a half-frozen soda machine. Her house slippers were soaked, her thin robe and stained nightgown no match for the cold. Her hair was a tangled mess, her lips cracked, her fingers bare and trembling. Lauren slammed on the brakes, nearly sliding into a snowbank, and flung the door open, leaving it swinging as she ran. Mom, she said, the word foreign after years of disuse. Margaret didn't move at first, her eyes glassy, blinking slow. Then, a flicker of recognition crossed her face. You shouldn't have come, she rasped, voice barely audible. I'm fine, just slipped. Lauren's throat tightened, a bruise bloomed on her mother's cheek. dark and spreading like spilled ink. "Come on," she said, reaching to help. "Let's get you warm." Margaret flinched at her touch, her body tensing as if expecting pain. Not care. Lauren's chest ached at the sight. A mix of rage and sorrow she couldn't name. A police cruiser idled nearby. Officer Brooks stepped out, his face soft with concern. "She wouldn't let us touch her," he said, handing Lauren a fleece blanket. "Just kept saying someone would come." Lauren draped the blanket over her mother's shoulders. Margaret resisted for a moment, pride or stubbornness. Lauren couldn't tell, then leaned into her. Just slightly. Lauren guided her to the car, cranked the heat, and aimed the vents at her mother's face. They sat in silence, the snow falling outside like a curtain, softening the world's edges. Lauren handed her a water bottle from the console. Margaret sipped it slowly, as if relearning the taste of something real. Brooks leaned in through the passenger window. "She said some things," he said quietly, not sure how much is true. "Mentioned a son, said he hit her. Threw her out. Then she backtracked, said she imagined it, that she was confused." Lauren's stomach turned to ice. "James?" she asked, naming her brother. Brooks gave a slight nod. Cautious. "She also said she didn't want to die out there. That maybe someone would remember her." Lauren looked at her mother, whose lips trembled, eyes wet but distant. She reached out, slow and careful, and took Margaret's hand. "I remember you," she whispered, but in her mind, memories churned like the storm outside. James, her older brother, always the golden child, the one Margaret defended, even when he'd bloodied Lauren's nose at 13. Even when he'd locked her out in the yard all night at 15. Barefoot in December. Margaret's voice had always been there. "Excusing him. You provoked him. Lauren, you know how much pressure he's under." Those words were fossilized in her. Hard and unyielding. 7 years of distance hadn't erased them, only buried them deeper. But now, sitting in the car with her mother's frail hand in hers, Lauren felt a shift. This wasn't just about saving Margaret from the cold. It was about facing a truth she'd avoided for years, a truth her mother had hidden, and that James had buried. The snow kept falling, relentless, but Lauren's resolve hardened. She wasn't just here to rescue her mother. She was here to unearth what her family had spent decades trying to hide. The motel room smelled of stale coffee and pine-scented cleaner. A thin veil over years of cigarette smoke baked into the walls. Lauren Carter sat at a wobbly desk, her laptop screen casting a pale glow across her face. Margaret, her mother, slept fitfully on the bed behind her, wrapped in a borrowed sweater, her breathing uneven. The snow outside had slowed to a soft drift, but the storm inside Lauren was just beginning. She hadn't slept since the drive to Rochester, her mind racing with the weight of what she'd seen. Margaret, bruised and shivering, abandoned in a gas station lot. And the officer's words, heavy as the snow itself. She mentioned a son. Said he hit her, threw her out. Lauren's fingers trembled as she sorted through the evidence on her laptop. A grainy video from a baby monitor's micro SD card, timestamped 8:14 p.m. the night Margaret was found, showed James, her brother, striking their mother in the kitchen. Margaret stumbled, her head hitting the counter with a sickening crack, plates clattering to the floor. Sarah, James's wife, walked past, phone in hand, her face blank as if Margaret were nothing more than a spilled drink. Lauren watched the clip 3 times, each replay tightening the knot in her chest. This wasn't an argument gone wrong. This was deliberate, practiced cruelty. She saved the video to a secure cloud folder, labeled simply, Margaret_0114_evidence. No drama, just truth. Alongside it, she added a receipt from a law office, dated 2 months ago, noting a property transfer. Margaret's house. Signed over to James. A voicemail from James's number. Chillingly calm. You're embarrassing me. Ma, keep this up, and I'll make sure nobody finds you. Lauren's grip on her phone tightened until it creaked. She remembered that voice from childhood. Always smooth, always in control, even when he'd locked her out of the house at 15, barefoot in the snow, or bloodied her nose at 13 and called it her fault. But Lauren wasn't that girl anymore. She opened the legal template and began typing. Elder abuse. financial coercion, physical assault, names, dates, locations, evidence files attached. She sent an email to James's work address. No subject. Just a still from the video. Margaret mid-fall. The tile floor inches from her head. No words. Just the image. Let him sweat. Then she dialed Casey Miller, a social worker she'd known from her early days as a paralegal. Casey's voice crackled with familiarity. Lauren? You okay? No, Lauren said, her voice steady despite the ache. But I know what to do. For 20 minutes. She laid it all out. The video. The voicemail. The years of James's manipulation. Margaret's excuses. The house transfer. Casey didn't interrupt. I can file for an emergency evaluation. She said finally. It'll trigger a home visit. If it holds up, it goes to court. Do it, Lauren said. Today. I'll send a statement within the hour. By dawn, Lauren had drafted more paperwork than she had in months. Her hands were stiff, but her mind was clear. She glanced at Margaret, still asleep, curled tight like she was guarding herself from the world. You're doing this for someone who never believed you, Margaret had said earlier, her voice scratchy with exhaustion. Lauren's reply was quiet but firm. No. I'm doing it for someone who deserves to believe herself. The courthouse in Rochester was a cold, gray slab of a building, its hallways echoing with the hum of anticipation. Lauren walked in with Margaret at her side. Her mother's steps slow but steady, dressed in one of Lauren's old jackets. Too big but warm. Reporters hovered, their cameras blinking like hungry eyes. Lauren's folder was heavy with documents, the video, the receipt, the voicemail transcript, and her petition for temporary guardianship of Margaret, paired with a restraining order against James and Sarah. Inside the courtroom, the air was thick with tension. James sat across the room, his navy suit pristine, a silver tie pin catching the light. Sarah was beside him, her tailored coat and soft pink lipstick a careful mask of innocence. They looked like a power couple, not defendants, but Lauren saw the tightness in their jaws, the flicker of unease in their eyes. This wasn't their stage anymore. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes and no patience for theatrics, began the roll call. Lauren stood, her voice steady as she presented her case. Your Honor, I'm requesting temporary guardianship of my mother, Margaret Carter, and a restraining order against James Carter and Sarah Carter. The evidence shows a pattern of elder abuse, financial coercion, and physical assault. She submitted the video, the transcript, the receipt, each item a brick in the wall she was building. James stood next, his voice smooth as polished glass. Your Honor, we're heartbroken by these accusations. They stem from family tensions. Nothing more. My sister, Lauren, has been estranged for years. She struggles with emotional stability, and this case is her attempt to settle old scores. Sarah nodded, her voice syrupy. We've done everything to support Margaret, but she's been confused, forgetful. We had to make tough choices. Lauren didn't flinch. She kept her eyes on the judge, who turned to Margaret. Mrs. Carter, do you wish to speak? The room stilled. Margaret sat, silent, for what felt like an eternity. Then she stood, her voice soft but piercing. I used to think pain meant love. That if someone yelled, they cared enough to stay. If they hit you, they were still paying attention. I don't believe that anymore. She looked at James, her gaze steady, then sat down. The silence that followed was deafening. The judge cleared her throat. We'll reconvene in 72 hours for formal deliberation. For now, Ms. Carter retains temporary guardianship. The restraining orders are granted. Outside, Sarah cornered Lauren, her voice a hiss. You humiliated us. That video's edited, and you know it. Lauren didn't raise her voice. It's authenticated. I have copies and witnesses. Sarah's eyes flashed with something new, uncertainty. You abandoned her for years. She spat. I left to survive, Lauren said. You stayed to control. That night, Lauren's laptop froze mid-save. Pop-up errors flashed. File path not found. Her backup drive was corrupted. Her stomach dropped, but her cloud drive was still intact. She exhaled, thanking whatever instinct had made her upload everything. By morning, the smear campaign began. Anonymous posts on local forums accused Lauren of exploiting Margaret, with doctored screenshots suggesting she'd siphoned money from her mother's accounts. But Lauren was ready. She'd contacted Maya Walsh, a journalist she'd met at a health policy conference years ago. "You want a story?" Lauren messaged. "Here's what successful sons get away with." She uploaded a partial clip of Margaret's courtroom statement to an eldercare advocacy site. No names, just the words. "I used to think pain meant love." Comments flooded in. "She sounds like my mom. I lived this. Thank you for breaking the silence." The message was clear. Lauren and Margaret weren't alone. Then it happened. A press conference, streamed live, showed James at a podium, Sarah at his side, both polished and poised. "We're heartbroken by these false accusations," James said, painting Lauren as a bitter, unstable sibling. Reporters nodded, but then a notification interrupted the stream. New video uploaded. Anonymous. A reporter played it, holding her phone to the mic. James's voice, cold and clear. "That old woman's a liability. Freeze her out if you have to." Gasps rippled through the crowd. James froze, then stammered, "That's out of context." But the damage was done. Sarah leaned in, unaware her mic was hot. "I told you that voicemail would surface." James, "You never delete anything." The clip spread like wildfire. #FreezeHerOut trended nationwide. James's clients pulled out, his office door stripped of its gold lettering. Sarah's real estate firm dropped her. Her social media accounts went silent. They left town soon after. Rumors pointing to Florida. Consequences didn't always wear handcuffs. But they cut deep. Lauren found the letter a week later, in a quiet single-story rental behind an elementary school. The snow had melted, leaving muddy sidewalks and patches of brown grass. The envelope sat on the kitchen table, plain, folded, with Margaret's slanted handwriting. Lauren sat before opening it, her heart heavy but not expectant. "There's no fixing what I ruined," it read. "But you showed up. You didn't let me freeze twice. That's more than I deserve." No apology, no signature, but it was enough. Lauren tucked it inside an old paperback about women erased from history. A fitting resting place. Life slowed after that. Lauren worked remotely, consulting for eldercare nonprofits, writing policies to protect the next Margaret. Mornings were spent with coffee by the window, watching school buses roll by. Emails came from strangers. "I saw your story. I was her once." Daughters, sons, survivors, they all wrote to her. And she read every word. Margaret changed quietly. She took her medication regularly, asked fewer questions about things that didn't exist, stopped mentioning James. Dinners were simple: pasta, soup, slightly overcooked casseroles. Lily, James and Sarah's daughter, stayed with them, her crayons turning napkins into bursts of color. Margaret watched her with a mix of regret and relief, never saying it but showing it in the way her eyes softened. One March morning, snow dusted the ground again. Lauren and Lily stepped into the backyard, a patch of weeds and broken branches they'd claimed as a garden. Lily, in mismatched gloves and pajama pants, poked at a daffodil bulb. "It looks dead," she said. "It's not," Lauren replied. "It just needs time and the right place to come back." Lily nodded, planting the bulb with care, patting the soil like tucking it in. They planted 3 rows under a soft, tired sky. That night, Margaret stood by the window, mug in hand, watching them. She didn't speak, but her silence felt different, not avoidance, but peace. Lauren sat on the couch, the letter still in its book behind her. She thought of what had been taken, years, trust, names erased from photos. But she also thought of what they'd planted, a family not built on blood, but on healing. Some truths hurt like frostbite, sharp and relentless. Lauren hadn't come for revenge. She'd come to protect, to uncover, to rebuild. And in the quiet of that rental house, with Margaret's hand reaching for hers and Lily's crayons scattered across the table, she found something she hadn't expected. Not a perfect ending, but peace. And when the snow fell again, it didn't sting. It softened,